Hello from the dark side of the library. I am your podcast host, Carrie, and with me is my snowbound, snowed-in cousin, Katie.
Hooray! Hello!
We are going to bring you the dark books coming out for adults in the fiction category, February 2023. This is part 2 of a 2-part episode. You can find the first part at darksideofthelibrary.com on your favorite podcast reader, probably on YouTube, and you can also follow us at Dark Side of the Library on Facebook and Instagram. Katie, start us off with your first pick.
Sure. It is called The Sanctuary. It is by Katrine Enberg, and it comes out February 7th. Apparently, this is a part of a Scandinavian crime fiction pantheon.
Ooh.
Which now I'm like, well, I gotta get with it. So our main protagonist, Jeppe Corner, is on leave from the police force, and he goes to find refuge on this island called Bornholm for the wintertime. And it's deceptive. Apparently it's not a refuge at all, and he has to do
crap.
all of his police work, of course. There's a lot of stuff that ends up happening here, like a friend's death, and Jeppe has to go help with the island's local sawmill. It's not as peaceful as he was hoping it would.
Oh no, did you say sawmill?
Yes, I did.
Oh, I have a feeling they're not just going to be sawing wood.
No. So in another place, though, Copenhagen, so we're dealing with 2 locations here. We have Annette Werner, who is now taking lead on an investigation into a severed corpse. She's trying to follow a strange trail of clues, and that all, of course, leads back to our lovely island of Bornholm, which Jeppe is there. So all of these characters will combine on this island. So check it out if you are into Scandinavian crime fiction. I really am interested in this book. So this is called The Sanctuary. This is by Katrine Enberg.
The next book has the most gorgeous cover. I am freaking out. It's The Secrets of Hartwood Hall by Katie Lumsen. There's a creepy manor house in the background, and the cover is red with spooky trees and a lady in a Victorian gown in the front holding a candle. It's 1852. Margaret Lennox is a young widow, so she has to be a governess, as you do. And she only has to take care of one child, Lewis, in an isolated country house in the west of England. Now, you guys, if you've been listening to this podcast, you know I can't resist an isolated British English country house book, so I will be picking this up. So, as you can imagine, with every possible governess story set in Britain ever, she starts to feel that something isn't quite right and seeing strange figures in the dark. And to throw in a little Gosford Park and Downton Abbey, there's tensions between the servants. What? Really? No. And there's an abandoned East Wing, as there always is. So I'm getting some Northanger Abbey, Jane Eyre vibes with a little bit of The Secret Garden. Woo! So there's local gossip that's a little strange surrounding the little boy's widowed mother, Mrs. Eversham. She's deeply distrusted in the village. The poor nanny is lonely, and she finds distraction in, here we go, a forbidden relationship with the gardener.
Yes.
That happens. Sometimes gardeners just look so hot working out in the sun with their muscle. Oh, sorry. This isn't supposed to be a romance podcast. So this is The Secrets of Hartwood Hall, a Victorian suspense governess novel by Katie Lumsen.
Well, to follow that up, I don't know if I can, because that's awesome. The next book I have is called The Shadow of Perseus, and it's by Claire Heywood. It comes out February 21st. It is a reimagined, female-centered version of the myth of Perseus, which is kind of... Yeah.
Ooh.
So I actually have not read the original myth with Danae. There's also a part in here with Medusa and Andromeda. So because Perseus is obsessed with his own destiny,
yeah, he's so important. He knows it.
Yep. So he casts a shadow of violence and destruction across all of these women's lives, as we know, poor Medusa. Jeez, Medusa. Anyway, so now we get a version of Perseus' story through the lens and the voice of these three women, which I really like. I think it's really cool. It still is focal on the journey of Perseus, but still through basically through the lives he destroyed. So if you are interested in a more female-centric version of the Perseus myth, check out The Shadow of Perseus by Claire Heywood.
My next book is Sister, Maiden, Monster by Lucy Snyder. The publisher is Tor Nightfire. A virus has torn across the globe and transformed its victims in nightmarish ways. Well, we just kind of went through that, but this is worse, and the world has collapsed, and dark forces are pulling a small group of three women together. Erin acquires an appetite for a woman, and her brain, why does forbidden fruit taste so good?
Oh, God.
Savannah is a professional BDSM switch. I don't know what the term switch means. She gets a new turn on that she discovers, committing brutal murders. But she just doesn't do them for the fun of it. She does it because she has eldritch masters.
Oh my God.
And then finally, we visit Mariva, who is plagued with chronic tumors. But she has a divine role in the coming apocalypse. And as her growths multiply, so does her desperation.
Oh, God.
So the cover looks like there's a bee that's mutating into some tentacles. So for those of you that like tentacle books, Sister, Maiden, Monster is right up your alley. It comes out February 21st by Lucy A. Snyder.
My next book is called The Spite House. This is by Johnny Compton, and it comes out February 7th. We have a father whose name is Eric Ross, and he's running away with his two daughters he left his wife, his house, and his entire life behind, which is crazy. So obviously now I'm curious why he left all of that behind and took his daughters away. He's desperate for money, and it's really not easy to find work as he's, running away. He can't stay in one place for that long. So he finds this ad to basically be somebody. He just gets to stay in this notorious haunted house called the Mason House in DeGener, Texas. He's just there to prove that there is paranormal activity. That's all he has to do, just sit in this creepy house.
Okay.
He's like, okay, that's really easy. It's a day and it's decent money, but also he just feels this connection with the creepy house, and he's like, I gotta do it. I gotta, So apparently there's some connection with him, his family, and this house, even though he's been on the run forever. So if you're interested in creepy gothic thrillers about death and grief, and a father's love, which I really like, it's called The Spite House. This is by Johnny Compton.
My next book is Stone Blind by Natalie Haynes. It is finally, I've been so eager to have a Medusa retelling, and there finally is one.
Yes.
Thank goodness. So Medusa's the youngest of the Gorgon sisters, but she's the only mortal. Everybody else in her family is a god. That would suck.
Yep. Yeah.
So her siblings don't grow older, but she does, and she can feel weakness, and she experiences change. And because she knows she has a mortal lifespan, she has an urgency that her family won't understand. So the sea god Poseidon rudely comes and assaults her in Athena's temple, and the goddess is enraged. Thank you, Athena, but she takes revenge on the young woman instead of the rapist.
Yeah, stupid Athena.
So Medusa is punished for Poseidon's actions, and she's forever transformed, and her hair is now writhing snakes, as you can imagine, and her gaze will turn any living creature to stone. Well, that would be a useful talent. It would suck to have to walk around with a blindfold on so you don't kill your favorite sister.
Yes.
Yeah. So pluses and minuses. So she decides to do the right thing and condemn herself to a life of solitude. But this is before the internet and Netflix and basically too many books, so she must have been very bored hanging out in this cave. But Perseus, from the book Katie was just talking about, embarks on a quest to fetch the head of a Gorgon, and he should have picked one of her sisters. But of course, a goddess would be harder to defeat. So I'm very curious to read this. I've already pre-ordered it. It is Stone Blind. I only have to wait 7 more days to start reading it.
Ooh.
It's by Natalie Haynes.
I'm excited for your opinion on that book because that sounds really good. All right. My next book is called Such Pretty Flowers. This is by K.L. Cerra. And, okay, so this is a really weird plot, I have to say. Okay, so we have Holly, our protagonist. Her brother Dane was found cleaved open in a lavish Savannah townhouse of his girlfriend Mara. And for some reason, I don't know how you would do this and why the police would say it's a suicide, but they say it's a suicide.
How do you cleave yourself open yourself? I'm sorry.
God, I don't
My
know.
mental
That's
image right now is like, maybe I
Right.
won't be having spaghetti for lunch.
God. So, there's something about a message that he received earlier that night about a game that Mara, his girlfriend, who he died in her house, that she wanted to play. And I still don't know why the police did not investigate that at all. Anyway, so fast forward to the future, Holly begins to stalk his ex, or, Mara, the girlfriend. She is a black-eyed florist. She loves carnivorous plants. And Holly, for some reason, starts to become fixated on her and starts to feel a very dark attraction for Mara. So it gets a little weird and strange because, she knows that her brother was probably not committing suicide, but probably murdered by this creepy carnivorous plant keeper. Anyway. So we get to learn more about Mara, her dark, creepy secrets, and also Holly's weird fascination and fixation on Mara. So if you are interested in creepy, stalkery books, check out Such Pretty Flowers. It's by K.L. Cerra.
I admit I'm a little intrigued.
Yes, me too.
My next book is called VenCo. It's spelled VenCo. It's by Cherie Dimaline. So there's a millennial named Lucky St. James. And Katie, tell me how to pronounce the name of the indigenous tribe that they're part of. Métis?
I think it's Metis. I'm not sure, though.
Because you're the anthropology student. Okay. She is barely hanging on when she learns she's going to be evicted from the tiny Toronto apartment that she shares with her loving grandmother, Stella. One night, though, something strange and irresistible calls out to Lucky, and she just randomly burrows through a wall and finds a tarnished silver spoon, and it's hung with otherworldly energy. And on the spoon is etched a crooked-nosed witch and the word Salem. What?
Oh, that's cool.
So she's familiar with her indigenous ancestors' magic, but they weren't in Salem, and so she doesn't know what's going on with this spoon. And it turns out that it connects her to a network of witches across North America who have anxiously been awaiting her discovery. So VenCo is a front company fueled by vast resources of their dark money. VenCo is an anagram of the word coven. And the witches that belong hide in plain sight wherever women gather, such as Tupperware parties, mommy and me classes, and suburban book clubs. And I'm going to a suburban book club tomorrow, and I hope the other women are witches.
That's awesome.
There always has to be a but. So as reckoning approaches, a very powerful adversary is stalking them. His name is J. Christus, like Christ. And he's a deadly witch hunter, as old as witchcraft itself. And Lucky and Stella have to try to find the last spoon. They're going to New Orleans. So this is going to be awesome. I'm totally in. I am buying this. It is VenCo, a novel by Cherie Dimaline.
That one also intrigues me. We're going to have duplicating novels. My next book is called Weyward. It's by Emilia Hart. Oh no, it got pushed to March 7th. Oh goodness. Okay. Well, look forward to March 7th. So this follows 3 women, and because I hate saying this already, I probably won't pick this up because there's too much time in between, a lot of time jumping. So we have first Kate, who is from 2019. She flees London for a ramshackle wayward cottage. And this was inherited from a great aunt that she doesn't even remember. It's got an overgrown garden, and the cottage is worlds away from her abusive partner. She begins to suspect that her great aunt had a secret. This is probably where the story it kicks off. And one that lurks in the bones of the cottage, hidden ever since the witch hunts of the 17th century. So then we go to 1619. Altha is awaiting trial for the murder of a local farmer. She is basically told she's a witch, so we all know how that story goes. She probably has hardly any evidence against her, and she's gonna go down for it. And then we go to 1942. So this is where we follow Violet and World War II. She is trapped in her family's grand, crumbling estate. She longs for the robust education her brother receives and for her mother, long deceased, who was rumored to have gone mad before her death. The only traces Violet has of her are a locket bearing the initial W and the word Weyward scratched into the baseboard of her bedroom.
Oh.
So this story is weaving all three of these women together across 5 centuries.
Whew.
So it's a lot.
Maybe if I had a notebook and take notes, I could keep up with the timelines.
Yes.
I can't work that hard at my reading right now.
I also agree.
I need it easier.
I do too. So this is only 336 pages. You know, the cover is beautiful. I would say it's my favorite cover for, well, it's coming out in March, but I think it is one of my favorite covers I've seen. So this is called Weyward, and it's by Emilia Hart.
My next book is Wild Massive by Scotto Moore. Comes out February 7. It's about a building with a capital B, which is an infinitely tall skyscraper in the center of the multiverse, where any floor could contain a desert oasis, a cyanide rainforest, or an entire world. So I'm kind of picturing the holodeck right now from Star Trek.
Yeah.
Our main character is Carissa, and she loves her elevator. Up and down she goes, content with the sometimes chewy food that she has a reality fabricator make for her. And she doesn't want to speak to another living person. But, there's always a but, a mysterious shapeshifter from a world that she's not familiar with lands on top of her elevator. Intent on stopping a plan to annihilate hundreds of floors, she has to step out of her comfort zone and flee into the wild, massive network of theme parks in the building. There's technology, there's sorcery, there's elaborate media tie-ins, there's rides that you can go on, every guest is a VIP, and the roller coasters are frequently safe. But you need to have a valid day pass, or else the automated defense lasers will escort you from the building by killing you. Woo! That sounds very creative. I don't think I've read anything like this. I'm definitely going to pick up Wild Massive by Scotto Moore and check it out.
My next book is called The Witch of Tin Mountain. It comes out February 1st, and it's by Paulette Kennedy. It is Depression-era Arkansas. So we're in the Ozark Mountains, and all I can think of is Ozark, the show. So I'm trying to get my head into more of a witchy theme.
Such a good show, though. It's hard not to think about it.
I know, it's really, really good. So our main character, Gracelyn Dotree, lives on Tin Mountain in the Ozarks with her adoptive granny. And her adoptive granny is definitely witchy. Like, she creates tinctures and all kinds of stuff. She follows a lot of superstitions and she seeks them out, etc.
I want a witchy adoptive granny.
I know.
No fair.
So nice. So then comes this evangelist, Josiah Bellflower. So, of course, he comes in with his promise of miracle healing instead of what Gracelyn's grandma is doing. So
how rude.
I know. We get our dueling ideologies here. So Gracelyn's grandmother and Josiah Bellflower kind of know each other from 50 years ago. So she made a terrible promise, and Josiah is an enemy, and he is returned to collect his due from Granny. Granny sickens, and there's a drought-ridden countryside, which then becomes cursed by Josiah. It's crazy. So Gracelyn, the granddaughter, needs to choose if she flees Tin Mountain or if she confronts this preacher, Josiah Bellflower, who is trying to destroy her and her granny and really the entire, well, not the entire Ozark, but Tin Mountain itself. So it's an interesting book premise.
Shouldn't she have some help from the neighbors? I mean, nobody really wants a nasty pastor showing up and destroying everything.
Yeah, I'm a little torn. I've never read a Depression era book before, but it is kind of a haunted mountain town, and I've played a lot of video games with like haunted mountain towns, and I really enjoyed those, so I'm kind of leaning towards I might grab this, and a lot of people have already reviewed it and talked about it, so it's probably going to be very good. This is called The Witch of Tin Mountain by Paulette Kennedy.
I live in a mountain town right now, and unfortunately, it's not very haunted.
Carrie, you need to start working on that.
I know. I need to attract some ghosts.
Yes.
You know, the way you can create a ghost is to kill someone and piss them off. No, never mind.
Goodness gracious.
My final book today is The Writing Retreat. It's a novel by Julia Bartz, comes out February 21. And I have to mention, I love the idea of a writing retreat or a reading retreat. And my friend Camille and I tried to have a writing retreat recently. We drove out to this town that's 4 hours from everywhere. And we did have our phones. We tried to put them in the other room and only check them at night. And we're like, no Netflix, no TV, just write.
Oh, wow.
But then we'd meet in the kitchen to pour wine or tea or coffee or something. And we'd start chatting. And then we'd chat some more. And then we'd go watch a movie at night. We didn't get any writing done, but it was so fun.
Oh,
so,
that sounds fun.
That's off topic. This book features Alex, who's all but given up her dreams of becoming a published author, but then she gets a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. She can go to an exclusive month-long writing retreat at the estate of feminist horror writer Rosa Vallow.
Ooh.
And she's excited to go, even though her former best friend and current rival is attending. But unfortunately, when the attendees arrive, the horror author Rosa, the hostess, drops a bombshell. You guys all have to complete an entire novel from scratch during the next month, just like NaNoWriMo, but with tougher stakes, because the author of the best one is going to get a life-changing 7-figure publishing deal. Oh, well, Alex wants to win this. She buckles down and tries, while she's writing, to ignore all the strange stuff going on at the estate, including their host's increasingly erratic behavior and her ex-best friend's cruel mind games. I hate when that happens. We all have an ex-best friend, right? Oh,
yes.
Man. And then one of the writers, as you can imagine, I don't even have to tell you this, someone vanishes during a snowstorm.
Ooh,
I'm in.
Yeah.
Alex realizes that something very sinister is afoot. So she has to write very fast to find out what's happening. It is a thriller that explores the dark side of female friendships and fame. I am buying this. It's The Writing Retreat, a novel by Julia Bartz.
And our final book of today is called Zombie Ohio, A Tale of the Undead. This is by Scott Kenemore, and it comes out February 21st.
I'm already in.
I am torn by this novel for a couple of reasons. It seems silly, but I like it for that reason. So, Peter Meller dies in an auto accident during a zombie outbreak, and he is reborn as a very smart, but also forgets. But he's a part of the living dead now. So society is crumbling around him, and clearly there's a lot of violence surrounding him. And Peter learns that being a zombie isn't fun, and brains. Humans aren't very sympathetic to Peter.
You think?
And at every turn, people are just trying to kill him, and he's like, oh, this sucks. And his old friends are loath to associate with him. He finds himself, he can't control it. He really likes brains. That's just, like he just really needs to eat them. He can't do anything about it.
That's like me with whiskey. I just like it. I can't stop.
So if this wasn't bad enough, and this is where this novel gets extra silly, this becomes a murder mystery investigation. So Peter learns that his auto accident wasn't really an accident. So he's trying to solve his death as a zombie and try to figure out his murder.
Okay, I'm going to give them props for originality. Yes.
Absolutely. This is also book 1 of 3 of the zombie series of books. And I think I might pick it up. I've been in a really big zombie thing lately, and this sounds hilarious and wonderful. So this is called Zombie Ohio by Scott Kenemore. I'm really excited. If you are excited about any of the books that we have shared today for the month of February, make sure to check out our show notes at darksideofthelibrary.com. We will be sharing more podcast episodes every Wednesday and Friday that we will present to you more February reads from nonfiction, kids books, comic books, etc. There is no shortage of dark reads in February,
which is great news.
Yes, it's perfect. Make sure to join us on our socials at Instagram, Facebook, and our YouTube channel, and of course our Amazon live channel at amazon.com/live/darksideofthelibrary. We'd love to see you over there. Thank you guys so much for listening to this podcast episode. We will see you next time.